Hey, how's it going? Deviant D for Lightstand Entertainment. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Kind of a bummer deal of late on, what day was it? February 25th. We all lost a Hollywood legend. I don't mean to make light of it, but seriously, Bill Paxton died on the 25th of February. He was only 61. 61. We should have had at least one more decade of great films from him. He died of complication. From what I've read anyway, it was a stroke due to complications during a hard aortic surgery or something like that. So it just fucking sucks, let's be honest. Like many of you, like I grew up with Bill Paxton, you know. Honestly, I got introduced to the guy through, like many of you, James Cameron, like, you know, the fucking punk in the original Terminator, Hudson in fucking Aliens, the asshole used car salesman from True Lies, you know, but it was also roles, of course, like Twister, you know, and, yeah, it's just Tombstone, you know, he was one of the Earps, for Christ's sake. I think the coolest thing about Bill Paxton is, like, obviously many of us never knew the guy, but you could just tell he was one of those cool guys. And that fact was cemented by the fact he was one of those people that you never heard any, you know, dirty laundry about or gossip or bullshit about, you know. He just seemed like, you know, salt of the earth type guy. But anyway, you know, I'm sure many of you out there, you know, when a famous actor or filmmaker dies, you usually go through their filmography and, you know, kind of go over their career. I want to just bring up a few films I don't think many people have seen of them. Of course, I could tell you go out and watch Aliens again, it's amazing, which it is, and all these other movies, but chances are, you know, Weird Science, you know, chances are you've all seen these to death, you know. And I'm not shitting on saying watch them again, but I don't know. Here's just a few that you should check out. The first one, and sorry, sometimes I forget the years on these, because some of these I don't know as well as obviously a movie like Tombstone, and some of these honestly I haven't watched in fucking years, but they're good films. The first one is Mortuary. It came out in 1983, you know, during the classic era of horror films for the 80s. I love right at the tail end of where, you know, the slashers were starting to kind of peter out. This is a slasher that takes place in a mortuary. It has a lot of people that like made a career of being in these types of films. Like, it has Christopher George in it, and if you don't know who Christopher George is, he's one of those actors been around forever, like starred in a lot of TV westerns back in the 50s and 60s, but by the 70s and 80s, you know, usually Hollywood's like, we're done with you. So many of these actors went to horror films, and Christopher George starred in plenty of Italian horror films. One of my favorite cheesy slashers of all time, it's called Pieces. He starred in that. So Mortuary also stars him. Yeah, it's a slasher movie. Dude's going around, he's like, if memory serves, he wears like a hood. He has like this face paint, and he like kills people with the whatchamacallit, a trocar. That's his weapon of choice. And yeah, it's a slasher flick, but it's an early performance from Bill Paxton. It's one of his first big roles. He had a few smaller roles before then, but one of his big ones. Moving on, because I'm a horror guy, there's going to be a few horror movies here. The next one is Near Dark from '87. This was directed by Catherine Bigelow, who went on to direct, you know, the original Point Break, Strange Days, and of course, first woman to win an Oscar as director for The Hurt Locker in 2009. So Catherine Bigelow kicks ass. This is one of the films that really put her on the map. She was married to James Cameron at the time in the mid-'80s, so it makes sense that she pretty much like stole, like, I believe it's 3 cast members from Aliens that Cameron made the year before in '86 and put them in Near Dark. But who cares? I mean, it gives us another great performance by Lance Hendrickson, and that's all you should need to know if you haven't seen this movie. It's a great movie. It literally came out in '87, 2 months after The Lost Boys came out. And of course, Lost Boys was a huge hit, so 2 months later, there's another, you know, vampire movie. Oh, by the way, if I haven't said it, it's a vampire movie. There's another vampire movie, you know, about young people. I can see many of the audiences was around like, dude, we just saw that a couple months ago, so we're good. But anyway, Near Dark, great movie. It's not your typical like vampire movie, you know. It's it's definitely not like Near Dark or Interview with a Vampire, like the glam vampire. These vampires are down and dirty. And in closing, and I'll move on. One of the coolest aspects I think about it is you never hear the word vampire mentioned once, and you never see fangs. You see people like going and biting necks, but you never see fangs. It's like, it's really cool because you can watch the movie in two different stances. Like, either these people are vampires or they're just crazy motherfuckers. There's some stuff that happens at the end that just does solidify the fact they're vampires, but it's a cool thing to play with. You know, it's a cool movie, Near Dark. Third one is called The Vagrant. Came out in 1992. Honestly, I didn't know about this movie until about 3 or 4 years ago. It's the first time I saw it. It was produced, believe it or not, by Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks produced this movie. It was one of the films that, you know, he produced quite a few films, but he would always take his name off, specifically because he was just like, dude, people see my name on a movie poster, they're thinking automatically comedy, which I'll get to in a minute. But, you know, in the case of, let's say, you know, Lynch's The Elephant Man, that was produced by Mel Brooks. I mean, you know, people would think it was a comedy about the Elephant Man if you had Mel Brooks, you know, presents. But anyway, Mel Brooks produced The Vagrant. Bill Paxton plays the lead character. He moves into this house, this new house, that a bum played by Marshall Bell. Marshall Bell's name doesn't ring a bell. He's the type of person, if you saw his face, you'd be like, oh, that's the guy that was in every 80s movie ever. Like, the first thing that always, performance that comes to mind is the original Total Recall with Arnie, and he's a dude that Kuatu comes out of his chest. That's Marshall Bell. Anyway, The Vagrant's about Bill Paxton. He moves into this new house, and a bum has been squatting in it, played by Marshall Bell. And then pretty soon, like, a lot of murders start taking place around the house, and, like, it is a horror comedy. There are parts it's just like, they could have done this film seriously, but I was kind of dug that they did it with a sense of comedy, because Bill Paxton has great comedic timing. And, yeah, it works. So the whole time, Bill Paxton is wondering, like, dude, is this bum, like, doing these murders and trying to frame me? Or am I just losing my fucking mind? Because a lot of other shit is going on in the guy's life, of course. He's like, basically, am I losing my mind and blocking it out and doing it myself? But anyway, The Vagrant, good movie. Another movie from 1992, it's called One False Move. I haven't seen this movie in, it's well over a decade. It's, he plays a thief, and he's a part of, like, a triangle of thieves, if memory serves. I remember one of them is played by Billy Bob Thornton. And, yeah, it's kind of a noirish thriller. And I haven't seen it in years. I just remember it's a really freaking good movie, and I really need to watch it again, because when I looked it up, I'm like, oh shit, I haven't thought about that movie in years. In fact, one thing I looked up real quick right before this is Gene Siskel named it his best movie of 1992, if that does anything to sway you. But, yes, One False Move. I remember it's a good movie. Next one, it's another, it's technically classified as a neo-noir thriller. It's from 1998, A Simple Plan. Once again, it stars Billy Bob Thornton with Bill, and Bridget Fonda was in it. And this was made by the great Sam Raimi, and it was, because it was 98, he was still known as, like, you know, the Evil Dead guy. He hadn't gone on to do, you know, the Spider-Man trilogy and shit like that. So this was, you know, the era in the 90s, the later 90s, where he was kind of breaking away from his horror roots of, you know, Evil Dead, Crime Wave, you know, even to a certain extent, Darkman. Anyway, it's about, once again, this is another movie I haven't watched in a while. I remember it's really good, and it feels like a true noir thriller, even more so than the previous one, One False Move. But yeah, basically, Bill Paxton, Billy Bob, and another friend of theirs, kind of funny, Billy Bob kind of plays somewhat of an idiot, simpleton, go figure. And yeah, if memory serves, yeah, they're out in the woods hunting, I believe, and they find a plane crash, and they find a bag full of money, and they basically steal the money, and, you know, noirish stuff happens. yeah, it's like people start not trusting one another. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much. A murder takes place later on, and anyway, it's really good. It's one of Sam Raimi's best movies that honestly people don't talk about when they bring up Sam Raimi. It's so much better than shit like The Quick and the Dead, but whatever. The last one that I want to bring up is the most recent one out of the films I've talked about, Edge of Tomorrow from 2014, the Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt sci-fi flick that Doug Liman made. People that know me, I freaking love this movie so much. It was one of those movies, I love it when this happens, where I see trailers for a flick, I'm like, alright, it looks cool, but I'm not like, oh my god, can't wait till I see it. I'm like, yeah, I'll check that out. And, you know, you go see it in the theater, and you're just kind of like a blank slate. You have no, like, preconceived notions or opinions. You're just like, you know, entertain me. And that movie rocked my world the first time I saw it. I loved it. It was, like, my favorite movie of that summer. I pimped it off to everybody that listens to me. And, yeah, it's a great movie. And Bill Paxton, even though it's a smaller part, he's not one of the leads. He shows up as a military man, and we love Bill Paxton as a military man. So, anyway, kick-ass Tom Cruise flick that just so happens to have a great character performance by Bill Paxton, Edge of Tomorrow. Anyway, we lost a great actor. It sucks. You know, I'm getting to that age where, you know, people I grew up watching in movies when I was a kid are, you know, getting to that age where they unfortunately pass on, and it fucking sucks. I hate it. But one thing at the end of the day we got to remember is all the entertainment they provided us over the years, and we still got their movies, you know, on our shelves. Anytime we want to see them, they're there. So, Bill Paxton, we love you. Rest in peace. You made it to the next level.